I think anything worth doing is hard, and the harder it is to do, the more worth it's doing.
Welcome to a brand new edition of Ageless Energy, where we talk about how to burn fat, increase energy, and balance hormones for women over 40.
All right. Welcome to another Ageless Energy show. If you're not sure who I am, my name is Taddia, founder and CEO of True Form Life. Many of you likely know who I am that are in our private group, but you could be watching somewhere else on another platform because we repurpose. At any rate, I'm going to talk about change today because I recently wrote about change and we're going through changes, and I feel like a lot of people fear change. I want to clear that up. I want to share what's going on with us a bit, and seemed I put a write-up together maybe just yesterday, and it seemed like there's a lot of people that resonated with that write-up in particular, so I feel like it's a good topic. I'll dive in, and that's me making sure I'm in the right place. We usually talk about, business-wise, we help women 40 plus increase energy, burn body fat, and balance hormones. That's our I help statement, and that's what we do the majority of the time. We do that through coaching, we do that through supplements. The coaching aspect often comes through mindset, which is interesting because when we do trainings in our private group, I'll ask our audience, I'll say, do you guys want to do more about nutrition, fitness, mindset? And it's almost always the answer is mindset. And I don't know if it's because I might be pretty good at talking about mindset, or if people or maybe I'm just not very good at talking about nutrition and fitness. But many people want to work on their mindset, which is great. That's important. You gotta, the mind, the body follows the mind, right? When it comes to change in particular, I wrote a very transparent, I believe people resonate with the truth, which is why we called our company True Form, because I believed in the fitness industry was full of endless nonsense. But I think a lot of people want change in their life. They're either afraid of it or they're not sure how to go about it. And for us particularly, I think sometimes people need truth. Like there's so much, like you're not getting truth from the news. You're not getting truth from like mainstream, and often you're scrolling through your news feed, and I wouldn't say that's truthful either. So I think people can resonate with truth when they see it. And for us, we were surrounded by chaos. Like everyone was complaining. There's this great political divide. People are, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be. I'm not saying you shouldn't be worried or you shouldn't be scared. I don't think that that's energetically beneficial, but I understand not knowing a different way to live life. But I think if you look at the big scheme of things, there's a whole lot more money to be made when people are fear driven. And I believe that there's a reason for that. Because the good majority chase the green, the almighty dollar. So it's beneficial to many entities to keep us in a fear-driven state. Like I don't want to make decisions out of fear or lack. We try to make our decisions out of love and abundance. So when we make a decision, that's what we think about. And we're also more currently than ever thinking about what is the easiest path. I feel like at some level we struggled many years, early on in business, early on in life, and we carry that on into our success. So we have found success in different ways. And we have found abundance. And I believe at times our decisions still come from lack because it was so deeply ingrained of having very little or struggling. So we try to make decisions from a different place. And I think that could be an important lesson for some of you to make your decisions when you're deciding, whether that's you, with a spouse, with your kids, making a decision out of a place of abundance instead of a decision out of lack or a decision out of fear. So that's number one. That'd be my number one tip to consider. For us, we're in the city, much different than small town life. There's a lot of divide politically. There's a lot of people in fear. There's a lot of complaining. People are struggling to feed themselves, to pay rent, mortgages, and that's understandable. And I think in different circles, it's a bit odd. I'm sharing more of myself on a personal note because you could have someone in a very different circle in life and they wouldn't experience that. But that's what we're experiencing. I mean, kind of started to feel ourselves pulled in the direction we weren't necessarily planning to or hoping for. So we made a decision, crazy decision. And then we packed up our stuff. A couple of years back, we sold our place. We didn't want to buy. I didn't want to have another mortgage. I didn't want to go through it. We decided as a family. So we moved into closer to our business. We moved into an apartment, which we absolutely loved. So it was simple. We made that decision because we wanted to focus on family and business. And that's it. We had two main purposes in life. And that simplified many things. So we moved into an apartment in the city, which we both really wanted to do. And now it's not for everyone. And we really liked it. It's fantastic. Until more and more concerns were being brought up. I think we all make our own decisions, but much of that seemed to stem from political decisions. So we decided, we've always had this dream of packing up and hitting the road and traveling. And we thought, if we don't do it now, when are we going to do it? Fortunately, we were in a place in business that we could do it. So we sold so much stuff, 80% of our stuff. We kept a handful of boxes that were more sentimental, some things that we knew we were going to use again. And that went to our warehouse where our products are. And we packed up our car, bought a Thule to go on top. So we packed up as much as we could fit in the car and hit the road. Fortunately, we have friends all over. We have friends and family, and we really like warm weather, so we went south. It made sense. Last 2 years was a couple crazy years of growth for us. Our team was growing, our warehouse was growing, our products were growing to the extent where it was hard to keep up. And I was often stressed out or strung out or struggling to keep up. And I spent a lot of my time looking for bigger spaces, hiring new employees, recruiting, training, managing our growing team. And then on top of that, a whole line of supplements and including clientele. And I like some chaos. I don't like the negative type of chaos, but I did enjoy I enjoy fast paced, a little bit chaotic, not sure what's going to happen next. I enjoy that, which sounds odd because, I mean, we like a simple life next to a beach in warm weather. Like, that's really important to us. Maybe my goal in life. I feel like we're there. At any rate, throughout the chaos, like you're in a particular environment, right? We're all in an environment. So it could be the environment in your home. Like, your home could be a happy, upbeat, positive place, or it could be a very negative, energy draining. Your home is an environment that could be very draining. It could be very uplifting. Maybe somewhere in between, but usually I find one or the other. It could be your workplace. Like, your workplace is very negative, very draining. That's your environment. There's many different areas where you are either positively influenced or negatively influenced. And whether you like it or not, that environment forms who you are and how you think. And I know that's going to be a tough stretch for a lot of people because you could be in an environment that's very negative and you know it. You just aren't able to get out of it or aren't really sure how. But that's my truth. That's how I see it. I was sitting at a table and I was looking at this one table. And there were 3 girls that were very overweight. And then there was one girl that was, I don't know how else to say, just to be transparent, she looked like she was on her way. She wasn't overweight, but she looked like she could be. And I thought to myself, what are the chances that she's going to take actions as similar to her friends, which is her environment, which will bring her closer to their lifestyle, which ultimately forms their identity. What are the chances? Take that person and you put them into a very different environment, or maybe everyone, like maybe you're not sitting at a restaurant eating giant bowls of pasta. You put that one person into an environment where you're doing something maybe active, moving. So maybe they're sitting around texting outside a basketball court in between games, let's just say. So like, that's a very clear environment of 2 different things. And then the individual, as we all are, will be positively or negatively influenced sway more one way to the other, right? Like there's a huge percentage of kids or athletes that become athletes because their parents were athletes, and that could be anywhere from professional. You see a lot of professional kids that turn professional because their parents played in the professional league. Same thing with Olympians. It's funny now. It doesn't make me feel. We watched the World Series there with the Blue Jays, and it was like, I don't know if there's any baseball fans here. Let me know in the comments if there's any baseball fans. But there's Vladdy, his kid. Like, we grew up watching his father. So now we're watching the kids, and I grew up watching their father. So, at any rate, I'm just saying, like, I would encourage you to not let, like, this statement prevent you from making a change. Like, someone could be sitting here and being like, I'm nothing like my environment, it's too negative. But I would push back and suggest there may be some limitations that you don't know about. Like, there could be some limitations in your mindset, whether that's physical, emotional. There's probably some type of limitations that your environment is offering you. And it doesn't matter how high you go. There's often different limitations. But there's also different areas where you see, being in a different environment, you can open up to new thoughts, new vision. At any rate, we're very intentional with the decisions that we make in our life. Not just for our personal, but now we have little ones to look after and what's in their best interest. And we didn't want to be in a very negative environment where it's fight or flight, fear state, lack. We didn't want to be in that. And it's not like, you don't have to pack up everything and jump on the road for months. You don't have to do that. I'm just saying that we didn't want to be in a position where a negative environmental influence would pull us down. We feel like we were being more attracted to that negativity, which is very foreign to us, where we try to be as positive and upbeat as possible. So throughout that time when you're in that environment, you don't know, like, we kind of knew a little bit, like maybe a little bit more frustrated, maybe a little bit more angry, or maybe a little less happy, whatever it is. But it was so amazing, like, to jump. So we jumped on the road, packed up our stuff, and it was like, our little guy, he doesn't use electronics. No, he doesn't get a phone or iPad in the car. He reads, he colors. I don't know if we pulled out a Play-Doh. Dorothy's amazing, my wife, at, like, entertaining him. But it was just, we spent hours and hours. We drove through 9 states, and it was just an incredible experience. And I didn't realize, like, what we would find. I didn't particularly feel like we were running from something. I didn't particularly feel like we were hiding from something or even looking for something. But when you get out of a very toxic environment, you can see, like, hindsight's 20/20, right? You can see, like, oh my gosh, that was such a day. Like, if anyone's been in a really toxic relationship and you get out and you look back and you're like, whoa, what was I thinking? Or why did I stick around so long? And truthfully, some of you could be in a toxic relationship right now and you don't know it. Or if there comes a time that you get out of it, you could look back and be like, whoa, that was a lot. What was I doing? So we get out of that, and it was like, there was just more authenticity. There was more connection. There was more conversation. There was more time spent together. And it really opened my eyes. Like, I don't know if we didn't take this trip, if I would have, I could see as clearly as I see now. And there's so many things in life that don't matter. Like, they just don't matter. I wanted, like, my ego just wanted a big shipping house. Why? It didn't seem like, and that's not to change. Like, we're not changing anything right now. We're making small changes behind the scenes. I'll talk about this maybe here in the future, but we're going to remove some products that aren't really selling that I just want to emotionally hang on to. We still have our shipping house. We're still shipping products. We're still running our coaching business, which is going to look a little bit different as we move forward. But, like, things have to change. They have to change. They have to evolve. They have to churn. There has to be some type of new, fresh. I feel like many times you see, like, if you look at business-wise, for example, you have a business that's been run the same way for 20 years. And then, unfortunately, a lot of those kind of go out of business or they fizzle out, like those old mom and pops that are struggling to survive in this day and age because they don't want to do social media and they don't want to network. They don't want to do technology or AI. Run a successful business, you have to evolve. But I think it's the same thing in life. If you want to be successful in life, I think this is just my opinion. Someone could be happy sitting on the couch every night, scrolling through the news feed and not really having any ambition in life. I have zero judgment. And I don't mean to say that as a downplay, like not to have any ambition. Some people, and part of me is like, which is better? If you have a life where you don't really want anything, you're just happy with what you have, is like, that seems to be better than always. I'm like pushing till I burn out, collapse in a heap of exhaustion, take a couple days, pull myself back together, and I'm back at it again. Like, I think the other one's better. I certainly think it's easier, but I think a lot of times people take that easy route, or that, what's the word I just used? Like, it's comfortable. You don't have to live outside your comfort zone. And at any rate, whatever you choose, which is ever best for you, is great. Like, make that decision. I just think that if you feel like you have to make changes in your life if you want more, or if you want different, you can't. I wouldn't suggest sitting in the same place in life and expect something different. It's like, this is a big one for me, I've been really detached from social media. I've almost completely politically detached again because through the shutdowns, and I don't want to use the C word because social media blocks all that, but through the lockdowns and the shutdowns, you go through down rabbit holes. There's a lot of people that had really severe mental health because of it. I see it now. People living in that political world of complaining and agitation and anger and frustration. Like, I see those, and really those types of people, and I'm concerned for their mental health. Like, what else are you doing? Like, if you're sitting online, all you're doing is complaining about what's happening in the world. Like, you could be doing something more productive instead of contributing to the madness, right? But it's the change that we're afraid of, because a lot of us are worried about the unknown. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think that you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone and to deal with a little bit of unknown if you want some type of change in your life. And that goes back to anyone. That can go back to our members. Like, you could see one of our members lose 20, 30, 40 pounds inside our Metabolism Accelerator program. Many times women come into our program and they probably have 50 pounds to lose, and then they'll say, oh, I could probably lose 15 pounds. Because that's all that their mind can stretch to. Like, that's all they can envision is, okay, 15 pounds, what does that look like? But what's scary is you lose 40 pounds and you're almost a different person. Like, you're losing, I don't want to say you're losing, you're transforming into a different type of person. You are transitioning in life, because if you want to keep those results, and it's not the weight loss in particular, it's more of, if you want to keep the strength, if you want to keep the mental clarity, the confidence, if you want your metabolism to stay high, if you want to keep those results, then your actions has to continually change and align with that in your life. Because what I see is, like, we've all seen it, if you lose 40 pounds and you become complacent, and you're like, oh, and you're like, okay, this is it, I don't have anywhere further to go, then you start taking steps backwards, and you're like, I'm going to skip that workout, I'm going to start hanging out with my complaining friend that never wants to do anything active, I'm going to have that extra weekend meal with my husband because I deserve it. Like, it's a whole bunch of self-sabotage, because we don't have a vision past that, which is okay. I'm just saying, if you want more than that, if you want to keep your results, your weight loss, and everything that comes with it, there needs to be a bit of, you need to be okay with a little bit of uncertainty, because that change is something you haven't experienced before and you don't know what's coming. And a lot of people aren't. They really aren't. They talk themselves out of joining a program. They talk themselves out of sticking with the program. They talk themselves out of the results they found. Like, I've literally sat across from someone and they've seen incredible results. They told me over 90 days how they've changed their life. And then when you sit there and talk to them about it, they have all these limiting beliefs, and they'll tell you why it was like, oh, that was just water weight, why I lost that weight. Or I don't want to go through a bunch of excuses that I hear, but they completely downplay all the effort, all the results, everything that they put in, because they're mentally preparing to go back. And in the conversation, I can hear it. Like, I can hear it in their voice that they're working on self-sabotage, because nothing what they're saying aligns with the person that they want to be. They're talking like the person that came to me with all the issues in the beginning. So it's all a connection. Like it's all this giant energetic connection that all has to match up and align. And the reason I'm explaining that is going back to my thoughts around the fear around change. So there has to be, if you want to see the results you're hoping for, there has to be a little bit of ability for you to handle the change, which so many people are afraid of. You're like, I just mentioned change, and people like freeze and freak out. Like, what are you doing? What's happening? And that is more a reflection on the individual, right? Like if you say something that triggers someone, it's not what you said, it's how they perceive it. So a lot of people have gone through changes in their life, and that has been a negative experience. So in the future, when something changes, there's that panic, there's that mindset of lack, back to fear. That's a state of being that we live in that can be changed and transitioned. Back to my story of removing ourselves from an environment of fear. And that was back to grassroots of communication, time, less electronics, more nature, fresh air, hikes, beaches, sunshine. Like that is, I believe, who we are meant to be. I don't believe we're meant to be people that sit in a chair, look at a screen. When you're done with your computer screen at work, you scroll on your newsfeed and you watch TV. Like that's many people's lives. And I mean zero disrespect. Or is it, and I don't mean to say that incompassionately, if that's you. I'm just saying I don't believe that we were meant to be in that state. I believe that we're supposed to be moving and flowing and having conversations and being like humanly connected. And for us, I feel like we've gotten back to that. And from what I see is so clear of the things that are important in life. And the important in life for us, it's not like so I can tell friends or family or new customers that we have a huge product line and we have this big giant warehouse and I have so many clients. I don't like, that's not real. That's a superficial vision of what I had for me to be successful. What I really want is a business to run successfully that provides all of the things that we need to live the life that we want without all of the chaos that comes with as much as you can possibly, like all the extra things that I just mentioned. I want to spend as much time with my family as I possibly can. And that's a very different vision than what we were just going through for the last year or two. Good morning, Colleen. Good morning, Cheryl. And good morning. My mom jumped in here. Nice to see you in here, Mom. I'm going to wrap things up here right away. If I were to summarize, it's important to pay attention to the environment that you are in, because that environment may not align with the vision that you see for yourself. And I saw that very clearly when I stepped out of that environment and I put myself in a more natural environment where things were actually real, like real conversations, real connection with family, real time that's not half conversation and half scrolling. It's a very different place to be. So pay attention to your environment. Offer yourself a moment of fear as you consider a different place in life. And it doesn't have to be drastic. It doesn't have to be drastic. It can be very small changes. That's why I'm not a big fan of like the doors are closing. I'm not here saying we're changing everything. We're going to slowly make changes. We've already started on the back end. Does this make sense to do? Does this drive our business? Is this a time waster? Is there a reason to do this? So now every task I work with Nick, he's our full-time assistant. He's been with us for years. He's an amazing employee to have on our team, like an amazing team member. Every task we consider now, is this worth doing? Because I want to simplify everything. I want to simplify our business. I want to simplify our life. I said this earlier, but every question that we have, like Dorothy and I, my wife, we have a conversation. Is this the simplest way to get the result we want? That's every single conversation we have. There's been a lot of decisions that we've had to make here recently. It's very hard. It's not easy to simplify. There's a lot of very difficult decisions that we've had to make and will continue to have to make as we simplify everything. I don't think anything worth doing is easy. I think anything worth doing is hard. And the harder it is to do, the more worth it's doing. So consider that, because I feel like we live in a very soft world. We've become a very soft world where I joked with our members last night. Oh gosh, I laughed so hard. We had a coaching call and I said, you don't have to do anything these days. Like we don't do anything. You don't have to, you don't get out of your car. You live in a cold area where there's snow, right? So you want to start your car. So you don't go and start most people don't, right? You push a button, car starter, right? You don't buy groceries, you call Instacart. You don't buy food at the restaurant, you call, I don't know, Uber Eats, whatever they delivery, DoorDash. Okay, you got that. You don't go to Blockbuster, you just sit there and you order on an app, right? There's this study, there was some kind of study, and I believe it because of the world we live in, of some high percent, like 80% of the younger generation said checking into a hotel causes too much anxiety. They would prefer to check in on an app. So there's no human interaction, right? And I'm just like, gosh, this world we live in. Now I sound like grandpa over here talking about how life was so much different back in the day. But it's true. I believe we live in a very soft world where people don't know what hard is anymore. So to wrap that up, you can do hard things. We tell our toddler that all the time. You can do hard things. And I think that will make a big change in your life if that's what you want. At any rate, I'll leave you with that. Have a wonderful weekend and catch you soon. Bye.